Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a new episode of Eve Echoes. Tonight on the show we're going to be discussing the latest news that have been announced by NetEase in regards to the latest patch that will be deployed on the next downtime, which is a couple of days from now. Patch is going to be landing on November 3rd, and the escalation update overview, it's in the news, it's on eveechoes.com. Also, developers made sure they posted this information on Twitter, Facebook, and all the other official channels. So in case you missed it, we're going to be going through them, and I'm going to have a bunch of feedback in regards to the capital ships and what this would mean. Of course, there's always ranting, there's always issues, and I'm going to try to tackle the most important ones. But let's go through the article and try to understand what's going to be happening. So, the end or the beginning, through the joint efforts of the pilots, Concorde succeeded in destroying gravitational structures, connecting the void space, and the invasion from the ship graveyard finally came to an end. This is a nice piece of lore, by the way. In the meantime, the research into capital ships has reached a milestone, with each of the four empires developing their own capital ship manufacturing technology. Capsuleers ended another crisis in New Eden, but the war still goes on. Where the advent of capital technology will lead New Eden next remains to be seen. Capital ships. So with this update, what will we get? Well, 8 capital ships will make their debut. We've got the Dreadnoughts and the Carriers, and I'm going to emphasize on that. Dreadnoughts and Carriers. There's one type of ship missing. The Dreadnoughts do not possess strong firepower by default. Yes, they do. But their DPS greatly increases after activating their exclusive Showdown Mode. Couldn't they call this Siege Mode like an Evil Line? I don't know. So it's going to be called Showdown Mode. Grants him unrivaled firepower throughout New Eden. Apart from boosting a Dreadnought CPS, Showdown Mode also brings bonuses to many other aspects, such as repairs. Yeah, we do get bonuses to repairs and bonuses to, I think, to capacity recharge. The mode was visible in the capital ship testing event. If you would just tap and hold on the stance change icon, you'd be able to see a bunch of bonuses being received while entering Siege Mode, Showdown Mode. There. But of course, there's drawbacks to the mode, meaning you're unable to move. You feel like you have all over the place fitted Higgs anchors, and basically your velocity is reduced by 99%. Yeah, you're just like a brick standing still. Also, you're unable to warp or to dock. That's really important in case you thought you could enter Showdown Mode while near a station and just blap your enemies and then just dock up. No sir, you cannot. Also, activating / deactivating the Showdown Mode has a cooldown, and after you activate, the activation is instant, but it takes for the cooldown time to be elapsed in order for you to be able to deactivate that mode. So I think there's 180 seconds minimum time for the Showdown Mode, after which you can deactivate it and just warp out or jump out. If I'm not mistaken, you won't be able to jump out either. Jump through the Sinochore fields. We'll be talking about those a bit down below when we get into the article. So blah blah blah, we get the 4 Dreadnoughts, Revelation, Phoenix, Simoros, and the Naglfar. Carriers attack using onboard fighters. There's an interesting point here that we did not get during the capital ship testing. So the Carriers attack using onboard fighters. Fighters are devastating against regular ships. Space superiority fighters are highly effective against drones, frigates, and destroyers. Light fighters are best used against cruiser battlecruisers and battleships. What we did get in the capital ship testing event was light fighters, but we do get some space superiority fighters, which according to Voxel, he sold us this tip, and I'm pretty sure he nailed it. Space superiority fighters go 12 on the same tube, and so you'll be able to just launch 12 times 3, that's 36 such fighters that will be able to deal with light ships, drones, so drones, frigates, and destroyers. Anything cruisers and above, you'll have to get the light fighters out, so you'll have better, I don't know, damage output, but the fighters don't have a tracking system, which is kind of interesting. That fighters don't have this attribute. Instead, they have a flak cannon sort of weapon, and this is why we see explosion velocity on the attributes of these fighters, because actually they're the attributes of those guns. You can't fit the fighters, but they have these standard attributes, and, well, they behave like turrets, but they behave like missiles. They don't have tracking, but they're considered turrets. I don't know, beat me. We'll just call them MacGuffins. So aside from these two types of fighters, the carriers also benefit from a network sensor mode. Yeah, which is not triage, unfortunately. We'll touch that in a moment. The network sensor mode increases their scan resolution significantly, being able to target ships faster. Yeah, you know, it might take forever to target a frigate. So this specific mode aims to help with exactly that. It's the equivalent of having 3 targeting rigs fitted, which is awesome, sorta. And yep, we'll be getting the 4 carriers from the main empires, which is the Archon, the Chimera, the Thanatos, and the Nidiger. Here's another good item in the article: capital ship tonnage restrictions. Capital ships cannot enter high-sec regions regardless of the means, nor can they dock at capsulated outposts or be transported using the delivery services. The maximum insurance coverage for the capital ships is 20% of the estimated value, as opposed to 70% for regular ships. So let's take this bit by bit. Cannot enter high-sec regions regardless of the means. Cannot enter high-sec, but what happens if you would build them in Jita? I don't know. It might be possible, it might be a bug. We'll see if the building of capital components, capital ships, actually I think you can, because you can build the Charon, or actually the freighters, you can build them in high-sec, right? Why wouldn't you be able to build the capital ships in high-sec? But if you do build them, what happens if they just become stuck there? This is a gap that should be filled with information by developers. Try to contact them and clarify on the subject, because it's a bit ambiguous. Second part is they cannot dock at capsulated outposts, but nothing is mentioned of low-sec. And I did test this, in fact, on the test server. I went with a Dreadnought in low-sec, and I basically docked with an NPC station. So you can dock inside NPC stations in low-sec, in no-sec. You can dock with corporation citadels, but you cannot dock with capsulated outposts. So, and the third part of this is the maximum insurance coverage for capital ships is 20% of the estimated value, meaning to insure a capital ship that, let's say, will cost around 15 billions ISK, because that's how the prices look like right now, you'll have to pay up in advance around 12 billion ISK. That's quite a lot, but again, as a lot of you guys have mentioned, and me included, capital ships are not something that were made for solo players. Well, except when whaling and stuff like that, but even if you're whaling, come on, you don't want to fly something like that, which is pretty much useless. You can't use it in other parts except low-sec, where you're definitely going to be a target if you start running standard anomalies. And by the way, in low-sec you will not get your share of capital NPC anomalies. Those only spawn in null-sec. We'll check them out below. But since we finished with the ships, with the types of ships that will be introduced, we've got the Dreadnoughts and we've got the Carriers, and that's it. For those of you that played EVE Online, you definitely understand what I mean. For those of you that don't, you're probably going to miss the point, but I'm going to tell you all about it. So, in the beginning, when the Carriers were introduced in EVE Online, I think 13 years ago or something, I think it was 2005, it was the Red Moon Rising expansion, they were introduced as these neat platforms of support and logistics. So they fulfilled these two types of roles. They would have like fighters and also standard drones, yeah, you could deploy those as well, and use this to support the main fleets. And the logistical side of things, they had this immense base, that cargo base, but not necessarily cargo, it was also ship base. It can transport assembled ships, so you wouldn't lose the rigs. You can just load them up inside a carrier, and using the carrier, you could have just transported ships for you and for your, let's say, court mate to another destination. Let's say you're going to stage a new system for an upcoming war, so the guys with the carriers would just take up all the ships and all the stuff and move them several jumps away, using the jump drive, of course, to jump using the Sino. Let's not forget the most important thing of the carriers. When they were introduced back in 2005 in EVE Online, they had this logistical support in terms of remote repping. They had these stances called, actually it was a module that could fit them, it was called triage mode, and you would activate that, it would gain insane amount of cap regen and immense ability of remote repping and tanking. So basically, the carriers in triage mode were your capital logistics ship. The healers. The healers that would keep alive the other capital ships, which is the Dreadnoughts and other carriers, and like repair themselves and repair each other. But come along several years later, and CCP decided to cut the logistical roles for the carriers, because basically, well, one ship should fulfill one function, and the carrier was pretty much broken from this perspective. It fulfilled multiple roles. So they decided to introduce a new type of capital ships called Force Auxiliary Capitals, and these ships basically started taking over the logistical role that the carriers fulfilled. And right now, the carriers in EVE Online are stripped of the logistical role and just have a support role. And also, by the way, they removed all the standard drones that you could fit on a carrier, and they can only fly fighter drones. And does that sound familiar? Yeah, because this is the exact way we got them in EVE Echoes. We did not get that transition, and we just got the carriers just as they are currently in EVE Online. But there's something missing. There's something else in EVE Online I just mentioned earlier that took over the logistical role of stuff in the capital ship line, which is the Force Auxiliary Capitals. There's these new types of capital ships are able to remote rep and carry stuff. And guess what? In EVE Echoes, we just saw what kind of capital ships will be introduced. It's just the Dreadnoughts and the Carriers, meaning there's a missing link in the capital ship line of ships. The logistics ships are missing. Whoever thought of that? Well, let's just say it wasn't the best approach in design, because by not introducing these types of ships, they've left the Dreadnoughts and the Carriers in absolute shambles when it comes to logistics. You'll definitely need whole fleets of logistics ships in order to be able to keep these types of ships alive if you go into a capital engagement. And we don't know if those are going to be enough either, because, well, they're not capital ships and they don't use capital remote reppers. And just having fleets of logistics just to be able to keep the capitals alive seems a bit far-fetched, because, well, the rest of the fleet needs logistics and reppers and stuff. So my guess is, until NetEase announces they will be introducing the Force Auxiliary Capitals, most likely the existing capitals, which is the Dreadnoughts and the Carriers, will have to rely on tanking their own shit. This is not the ideal environment, but we'll see how that goes, and we'll see if capital ships start popping everywhere. And popping has double connotation here, like popping and building and popping and blowing up. Moving over to capital modules. This update introduces range capital modules, turret missile launchers, light space superiority fighters, light attack fighters, shield recharges, armor reppers, shield extenders, armor plates, batteries, afterburners, micro obsides, blah blah blah. As for capital ship riggings, these are weapon upgrades, defense upgrades, propulsion upgrades, engineering upgrades, and fighter upgrades. Skill corresponding capital modules will also be introduced. How about skills for capital ships? God damn it, I forgot about those. No, please note, most types of capital modules and riggings cannot be fitted to regular ships and vice versa. Duh. Also, we do need the skills. I wanted yesterday to film something about how, or at least what would be the best weapons platform, ship and weapons combined in terms of Dreadnoughts. But we don't have the skills, and without the skills being in the game, the DPS is quite silly on a Naglfar. With 3 capital strike cannons fitted, you get 150 DPS. I know, that's horrible. With just a 4800 salvo, which is the 3 turrets combined, that's the max total output of those. Yeah, it's a joke. So you definitely need the skills if you want to do any damage at all. And most likely you're going to need the engineering skills in order to fit a lot of stuff, because just with the 3 modules fitted, the guns, well, the power grid of the Naglfar was cut in half. Moving over to Sinochore jumps. Sinochore field generator. This is the new high slot modules. Can only be fitted when you have the required bonus. Using this module consumes a lot of fuel. Upon activation, players will become a beacon that can be searched by other pilots in the same fleet. So in order to use the capital jump drive that your capital ship has, you'll need 1 fleet member to go to a destination system. I'm guessing it's going to be in terms of lot years. That's how it goes in EVE Online. The fleet member will have to use his Sinusoidal field generator, which is a module that he will be able to fit on his ship. I think only a couple of ships will be able to fit these. Fleet member activates the generator. The generator opens up the Sinochore field, which is sort of like a beacon for which the capital ship that is trying to jump can lock onto and initiate the jump drive. Therefore, the ship will just jump several light years away, ignoring gates. You don't use system gates while using a capital ship. You're not permitted. Your ship is too big to pass through these. So the Sinochore field is the only way of travel between systems for a capital ship. Moving over to Sinochore Beacon Tower, which is a corporation add-on structure. It generates a beacon that's visible throughout the corporation. Though this add-on structure, the ships fitted with a jump drive can quickly return from other systems to areas near this structure. So this will be only available to corporation members. What about alliance members? This is gonna suck a bit if it's just for corporation members, because every corporation needs to return to its own home. But what if you need to build like a staging ground? You build a corporation citadel inside your staging system, and you all have your capitals there, and you try to put one of these so everyone can just return home. And surprise, only the corporation members of the corporation that deployed the corporation citadel will be able to return. The others, well, fuck them. Abandon where? I hope this is not true, because if it is, well, this is an oversight by the developers. It should definitely be addressed. Sinochore Jammer Tower. The tower is a corporation add-on structure, just like the previous one. Upon activation, all pilots in the same system will be unable to activate Sinochore field generators. The Jammer Tower doesn't affect the function of the Sinochore Beacon Tower from the same corporation. So we'll be able to have a Sinochore generating tower, and so you'll be able to have a Sinochore Beacon Tower and a Sinochore Jammer Tower in the same system, basically allowing friendly capital ships to return from wherever they were deployed and jump home, while blocking any enemy from activating the Sinochore field generator on his own ship in order to, like, let's say, create a hot drop of capitals in your own system, so they can just come in and sweep everything you have. This will be probably the first modules that everyone will be deploying to protect their home systems from ad hoc invasions using capital ships. But I seriously doubt anyone will just launch a fleet of capitals without any support just to try to pew pew, because, yeah, capital ships can still be tackled, can still be bubbled using, you know, warp interdiction, and if you just deploy randomly, well, you'll get caught and blown up. Anyway, moving over to capital ship rally point, and this is the anomaly that will only be spawning in nullsec, which have pirate detection array. A capital ship rally point contains pirate capital ships. When destroyed, pirate capital ships will drop capital modules and capital ship debris. I'm curious to see if the void space event will continue and will be still able to locate, actually to scan down such void space inside Nihilist space and go with fleets and try to get those capital ships down and get modules and blueprints and stuff. Because if that's going to be removed once the event is over, then the capital ship rally point will be the only way of acquiring these capital ship modules, blueprints, and components. Yeah, so will there be both of them or just one? Remains to be seen. We'll see what happens after the update on Wednesday. I'll also try to contact the devs on several of the items I just mentioned in order to understand and clarify. I'll probably be returning with some clarifications for you guys to better help you understand what exactly will go down. In conclusion, before releasing the capital ship update, the developers mentioned that, well, given the fact that we've provided a lot of feedback, I mean, the feedback was just helpful to them and provided a valuable reference point for the development and fine-tuning of capital ships. I can't understand what kind of fine-tuning and feedback and, I don't know, crunching data of the test event that was full of random stuff might be of any value, but I'm certain that players, including me, actually provided a good feedback in regards to capital ships, and hopefully they will consider it and apply some changes in areas where stuff is broken. But what's most important is the fact that they are stating that the stats of the capitals, as I've presented them in 2 videos that we've did with the carriers comparison and the Dreadnoughts comparison. I've compared all of them in between, amongst each other, whatever. What they're saying is the stats might change. And it makes sense. But to what degree? I mean, as mentioned over and over again, you can't aggregate proper testing data using random shit. But that remains to be seen. I'll definitely take a look at the capitals after the Wednesday's downtime. So I'll be able to check if any of the stats have moved, changed, bonuses removed, bonuses changed, whatever. I'll keep you guys up to speed. And, well, that's it for today. Hope you guys learned something. Thank you guys for watching. A very big shout out to my channel supporters, and I'll see you guys next time. Cheers.